Hello, I'm Holden Smith. I'm one of your global ambassadors, and I'm here today with Grayson. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Grayson. I'm a global studies history and German major. I'm a senior at PLU. And in January 2020, I went to Londonderry, Northern Ireland.
If you want to just kind of start off, how was the class structure set up in for that J-term trip in Northern Ireland?
Right. So we basically split our time between um, class sessions at a local NGO, non-governmental organization, a nonprofit in Derry called the Hollywell Trust. So we used one of their conference rooms and had classes there for a few hours. But then we also heard from speakers, different local leaders and activists, and then did excursions, whether it was to museums. There was the Bloody Sunday massacre back in the 70s there. So there's a museum on that. And we met with the staff there and different people who lived through that experience. And then we also had stuff to do on our own, writing blog posts and different assignments of that sort.
Oh, okay. So there was probably a lot of independent time too to with all the class structure, or was there
Somewhat.
some? Okay. So you said global studies is one of your majors. I would assume Northern Ireland relates more to global studies than German. Is that one of the reasons that interest you in the program?
Yes, so it was a global studies sociology course,
Mm.
and I did take it for credit for my major.
Um, what was one of your favorite parts of the program?
Hmm. Like I said, we did blog posts. We had a class
Hmm.
blog, and I think we posted 3, 4 times over the course of the program. And one of them was we would have to find a local and interview them. Basically, we would say, "Hi, my name is Grayson. I'm a student from America. I go to university in America, and I'd like to talk to you." Which for the Northern Irish culture, it's a lot of fun. I mean, pub culture, but it's also reserved in a
Hmm.
certain way. So it was an interesting experience in and of itself approaching someone like that. But I ended up talking with a docent at a local museum and kind of just got to talking about something. And then I come to find out his father was killed by British soldiers
Mm.
during the Troubles. It was this firefight between the IRA and the British. And yeah, so his father died. And he had for a number of years just this hatred really towards both sides. He grew up Catholic, but
Mhm.
his family wasn't political in that sense. And he had this hatred that, these people took this conflict, took my father. And what do I do now? So he kind of came to this crossroads where he said, okay, I can continue to be bitter. Can continue to let this struggle be inside of me, or I can try to understand it. So he really dedicated his life to studying history and culture and really said the thing that it comes down to is a lack of trust. And that's what needs to be restored more than anything in
Mhm.
Northern Ireland. But I think also kind of in a different direction, it was interesting how quiet it was. Derry itself it has the inner city is surrounded by these medieval walls. And then I think they just celebrated their 400th anniversary
Hmm.
of these walls being built. And that plays into the history of the city where there was a siege and Protestants were kind of inside these walls while the Catholic forces of King James II were trying to lay siege to the city. But I often walked these walls just kind of on an evening walk and reflect, take pictures, whatever. And it was just interesting to hear how quiet it was. And we have the bustle of Tacoma, and I've
Mhm.
been to Paris, I've been to Berlin, and these big cities, and there's constant noise.
Mhm.
And yet here, which had a lot of noise of its own in more ways than one over the past years, over the past
Yeah.
century, really, it still was quiet.
Select. Kind of a different tangent. If you don't have to answer this question. It's completely up to you. But something that a lot of students worry about when they are going to travel abroad is the money they bring and kind of how much they
Mhm.
budget, what they should budget for. If you'd like talking about it, how much did you personally budget for this program,
Mhm.
and how much did you actually spend?
Right. I'm totally open to talking
Okay,
about that.
perfect.
So, like I said, this is my second, or I guess I didn't say that, but this by this point, this is my third international trip, my
Hmm.
second J term. First was Berlin in January 2019. So I already had somewhat of an idea
Hmm.
of how much to spend. Of course, it was British pounds versus euros, but it was still okay. Like, this is how much I roughly spent. And looking forward, I guesstimated about $1,000 to
Hmm.
$1,500, and that is including food, you know, public transportation, my weekend away, the free weekend, because we did get one of those. So
Hmm.
that was, I spent 3 nights in
Hmm.
Belfast, and that was a hotel. I could have gone a little bit more cheaply on that side, but and then I think this probably with that question, I ended up spending about $1,000. I
Hmm.
was looking back, and I think that's more or less what I spent, again, with food,
Yeah.
hotel, different knickknacks.
Did you were housed with the faculty leader, I would assume, correct?
Yes, so we
Okay.
were in a hotel
Ah.
in Derry, so that was part of the program fee.
Mhm.
That was great, and that had breakfast and all of that. So that also kind of helped with the meals too, is that we had breakfast included.
Yeah, getting that one meal a day is definitely helpful in prepping because usually you can skip lunch and then just buy dinner and that saves money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fun to prep. Wrap it all up. Is there any advice you would give to a student thinking about doing this program, or is there anything you wish you'd known before you went?
Hmm. I think a piece of advice, kind of what we've already touched on, is being open to
Hmm.
different things. So I mean, that's not just money, that's just being open to new experiences. I mean, of course, if you're studying away, that's showing an openness to new things, new cultures, ways of thinking. But there were times in Derry where I felt tired. I was just not wanting to do something. I wanted to go sit in my hotel room, or just like, great, I have a paper to work on, which is really important. Don't forget the work. But it's also just
School's most important. Yeah.
right, those moments where it's like, oh, maybe I should go down this street. In Ireland, you have to be a little careful about that, but there are those things where it's like, oh, there's a monument over there. What's that? And then it ends up being, there's the statue of two guys reaching across this little chasm,
Mm.
and it's symbolizing the two communities, the nationalists and the unionists, trying to bridge that divide, and it's not quite there yet. So I mean, there are these things kind of hidden everywhere, and that's anywhere I've been. Those little things that have been there for years, no one really talks about anymore, but you can stumble upon them. So I think it's being open to those moments, as well as listening. I said, it was profound how quiet it was there, and whether it's that, just kind of walking the city or talking with different people, it's really important to listen, because at least for me, I came in with my own ideas. This is how I understand this conflict that's been going on for decades. I mean, we had a few days on campus before going out where we did kind of a crash course in British, Irish, Northern Irish history.
Hmm.
And I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
still there was so much more that you can't even begin to grasp until you're there and really talking with people who live through that. So I think it's important to listen, and not just to kind of like, oh, this is great, I'm having a conversation with locals. Like, no, how did this person feel?
Hmm.
How was their world literally turned upside down by a bullet that came out of nowhere?
Hmm. I think that's amazing advice, and I think a lot of people that have studied away, feel the same way because I've heard a couple of the NIA Bay participants saying that it's different learning in a classroom compared to learning from the people that actually were a part of it. That's great advice, Grayson.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for everyone for watching. I hope to see you again. We're hopefully more of these are going to keep happening. Bye bye.